What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Wide Eye Sports Podcast. I don't know why that popped up randomly, but we're good now. Welcome in. We are a quarter of the way through the NFL season. We are going to be going in on a little bit of everything. We're going to give our biggest MVP from the year. We are going to give our thoughts on the standings, our biggest surprises, our biggest upsets, all that, and so much more. We're going to get into it. First off, let's start with our MVPs this season. Everybody good with that?
Yep. Yeah.
Cool. So my MVP through the first 4 weeks of the NFL season is a homer take, but it is Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, let me get my stats out here. He currently ranks 10th in completion percentage. He ranks 7th in yards. He is first in touchdown passes. He is outside of the top 15 in interceptions thrown. He is second in yards per attempt. He is 5th in average depth of target. He is first in quarterback rating. And if you span his touchdown passes over a full 17-game season, he will have thrown for 47 touchdowns. And anybody who would throw for 47 touchdowns would be the MVP, period. End of story. So that is why Sam Darnold is my MVP. So through the first 4 weeks of the season. Spoon, Riley, who would like to go next?
Spoon, you can go.
So I flipped you off while you were speaking, not because of it being a homer take, but because you kind of stole who I picked.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I love that for me. I love that for me.
I was ready for it. I was going to come in. I was be like, hey, you're about to get the biggest hard on after you hear what I have to say. And it's also Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have a couple people that are edging him out in odds right now. I still think Josh Allen's there. I think Josh Allen's still playing phenomenal. He's playing just fine. He's not playing like Sam Darnold is right now. So right now he is my top guy. If you're making bets, you can still get Sam Darnold for the MVP at plus 1,100.
I've seen it at plus 1,800 in some places.
Yeah, you can get him pretty high right now. And honestly, he is leading in, you just said it, he's top 5 in most statistics, leading a few of them. Like
he's top 10 in every single one.
Yeah, it's tough to go against that right now. And he's also sitting at 4. His team and him are sitting at 4-0. MVP odds usually always go towards people that have wins. Always.
Yep.
So yeah, that is 100% mine as well. I'll back you on that.
I mean, when you beat 3 playoff teams, I mean, I'll say this: when this season started, I would have been happy if we were 2-2 right now. I would have been okay if we were 1-3. I would have been good with any of that. Like 0-4 would be upsetting because that means we lost to the Giants, and that would have been no bueno. But like at the beginning of the season, like that Giants game didn't seem like a cakewalk, right? Like we still didn't know if we were going to get 2022 Daniel Jones or 2023 Daniel Jones. Malik Neighbors was an unknown. They didn't have Saquon, so you weren't really worried about the run game. But that defensive front 7 looked scary. So that looked like a maybe, but obviously we've seen what they've turned into. But then you beat Houston, you beat San Francisco, you beat Green Bay in Lambeau. They did make a late comeback, but hey. Riley, who you got?
So I also had Sam Darnold.
Let's go!
We all had Sam Darnold.
You guys have already said all there is to say. So do you care if I switch gears and give you a biggest loser?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I don't have a biggest loser, but absolutely.
Trevor Lawrence.
Yes.
Yeah. Year
that is
after
a pretty big
year.
Big
after hearing, this is the year he's going to take off. This is the year. He signs his big deal. Now he's 0-4. And for whatever you think or want to say about Justin Fields, he is having a way better passing season than Trevor Lawrence is.
I would have to look at the stats to know for sure. I don't have the stats out.
I've got him right in front of me. Trevor Lawrence has thrown 53%. Justin Fields is at 70%.
Okay.
Trevor Lawrence has 730 passing yards. Justin Fields has 830. He does have a 4-1 touchdown to interception ratio, but if you add Fields' rushing touchdowns in, he has 2 more touchdowns and the same amount of turnovers. yeah, Trevor Lawrence is not living up to
The hype.
the contract he signed. And
Yeah, I mean it is, and it's so hard because he had that national. I mean, going all the way back to college, he had that national championship game where he stepped in and like it's hard
he's
to live
the
up to that level.
prince.
Yeah, it's hard to live up to that level of hype. Same thing that worries me with Caleb Williams. Obviously, that level of hype of generational savior, come into our franchise and save us. Like that never really works out well. I mean, look at Sam Darnold. He's a perfect example of that, right? Like he was like, I know Baker went number 1 overall, but that wasn't reported on until like 2 days before the draft. And Sam Darnold was seen as the bona fide number 1 overall pick, USC boy who's going to come in and save a franchise and be a god. And he went to the Jets. The Jets were a terrible bum of an organization, and they failed him, and he failed them simultaneously. And now you've seen what he can do when he's given a legitimate, competent staff around him and competent play calling. So that is what it is. But no, I would definitely agree. Trevor Lawrence is the biggest loser from this year so far.
Yep.
Spoon, do you have a biggest loser, or do you just agree with Trevor Lawrence?
I mean, I'm just gonna base mine off of who had the better odds and where they're at now when it comes to the MVP race. And I mean, Mahomes has just been a letdown. Like I'm sorry, like he was.
I mean,
favored.
Statistically, yeah, but I hate that.
I know because he is the best quarterback in the NFL, but it's just it's not.
But it's just a statistical letdown. He still has his team 4-0. Like
he does, and he's still the.
We're gonna get flamed in the comments because you just said that.
But he is still favored to win the MVP, and right now, I don't know how with the stats that he has. He is literally what is it? He's like 10th in passing yards total, and he has a 6-5 touchdown to interception ratio. It's not looking very pretty.
Because he is the most talented guy with the most wins. That's why he's favored.
That's why he's
Patrick
favored.
Mahomes. We know what he is. We know what he can do. We know what he will be. He will be when it matters. So that's why.
But to me, that has been a pretty big letdown. So is Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is obviously a top
Jalen
5.
Hurts a big letdown.
Big letdown. He's a top 5 favorite to go into the season, and honestly, it's similar. I think he's 9th. I think he's just barely above Mahomes when it comes to total passing yards. And then his touchdown to interception ratio is 4-4.
Can I throw one out there real quick?
Yeah.
The Cleveland Browns defense.
Oh,
big letdown.
I'm just going off MVP odds
Cleveland
right now.
Browns. Yeah,
I didn't expect their offense to be anything good because they stuck with Deshaun Watson, but I expected that defense to look like it did last year, and they look like a middle-of-the-road defense. I mean,
that partially may be because of Watson.
I mean, they are, let's see, in the AFC, they are literally middle of the road defense. Like they are quite literally a middle of the road defense right now, and it does not look good for them. And I think that's unfortunate because I expected them to be good. You guys want to take a look at the standings real quick?
Yeah, we can, because that's where I'm already kind of looking at right now.
Yeah, here I'll pull it up.
Now that we're going with big letdowns for teams, oh my goodness.
Yeah, so here we go. Right here. So I got wins.
Jacksonville. I just want to point out though, Jacksonville is by far my biggest letdown. I did not think in a million years if you said, "Hey, after 4 weeks, there's only going to be one team who has 0 wins."
And it's going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Like pick a team. I would pick probably 4 or 5 other teams before I ever picked the Jacksonville Jaguars, and here they are.
Yeah. So, I mean, biggest surprise for me through 4 weeks is the Washington Commanders leading the NFC East. I would have been equally likely to pick that as I am the Jaguars to be 0-4. Yep. I would not have picked either. The Seahawks in our offseason predictions, we had them leading the NFC West through like 8 weeks because their schedule is so easy. So that doesn't shock me too much just because their schedule is so soft. Cincinnati is another one that's a pretty big letdown. I would definitely say they're up there with the big letdowns. Pittsburgh's defense is definitely not a surprise, but I would not have expected Pittsburgh to be in first place in the division through 4 weeks. I probably would have expected Cincy or Baltimore if I had to make a bet. So, hey, that's that. But anything else you guys are like really shocked by? I mean, Miami at 1-3. I know Tua is hurt. Tua's hurt, so that's kind of there. But I mean, even their point differential, -58. I don't think there's a worse one in the league.
I mean,
right
I think
now.
I think the
Yeah, I
49ers are a little bit of a letdown right now. I mean, the fact that they're 2-2, it's not
Yeah.
terrible, but
Well,
I
when you
mean-
play the buzzsaw that is the Minnesota Vikings, you're gonna have at least one loss. So, I mean,
So
ask
I
Houston.
do have a couple questions for you guys about the
Yeah.
Rams, right? So the Rams are sitting at 1-4. They lose a close one in Detroit. They get blown out against Arizona, division opponent.
Yeah.
They lose a close one to the Bears, but they
Yep.
win. Their one win is against the Niners. Is it a rough start, or are they a bad team?
I would say they're a banged up team, and that makes
Yeah.
them a bad team. I think healthy, they definitely beat the Bears healthy if they have their two starting wide receivers. I don't know if they beat Arizona, divisional game. It's up in the air. I
And
can't.
that game was a blowout.
Yeah, that game was an absolute
I
blowout.
do believe that the Rams probably have one of the hardest starts to the year too.
I mean, I would argue the team with the hardest start to the year is undefeated, but that's not.
Well, no, I said they have one of the hardest starts of the year.
Oh, my bad. I heard the hardest start. My bad. My bad.
With their first 4 games, only one of them being at home, and their only home game was against the 49ers. Like that's pretty rough.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough.
And
I would like to say we didn't point out the Minnesota Vikings should probably be on one of the biggest surprises of anything. We should probably say that. Being, first, and I think
if you're going to give them a shout out, I think Baker playing the way he is has been a pretty big surprise.
But they won their division last year. They were expected to win that.
I wanted a homer. I
was about to say they were expected to win their division.
But
the Vikings leading in point differential, being undefeated, I would not have even bet on that at all. So
yeah,
that's probably the biggest surprise.
Brenner, you touched on it a little bit, but Seattle is sitting at 3-1.
Yep.
They have a 6-point win over Denver, a 3-point win over the Patriots, a 21-point win against Miami, and then get blown out against the Lions. That Miami game was without Tua.
The blowout against
contenders?
Detroit. The blowout against Detroit. I think they played Detroit really well. I don't think they got blown out by Detroit. I think they played them tough. Detroit played a perfect game. Detroit's never going to play a better game the rest of the season. That.
So, do you think they're contenders then, or are they just benefiting from an easy schedule?
I think their schedule's about to get much harder. I mean, it doesn't start this week because they play the Giants. They're probably going to end up being 4-1, but after that, they go on a very long streak of very tough. I mean, obviously, any division game is going to be tough. Their out-of-division games are the Bills, the Falcons, the Jets, the Packers, the Vikings. Those are all going to be tough games. I think they're still going to end up probably close to that wild card.
So I've done a couple of simulations. There's different simulators you can use online to find out what the end of the season is going to look like. Excuse me. And every time the Seahawks end up in the playoffs. So take that for what you will. They are, they're still. I'm a big point differential guy. So if you don't know, point differential is just points scored minus points allowed. Pretty simple little equation. And as you can see, the Seahawks are still positive point differential.
But they're I was gonna say they're the lowest out of all 3-1 teams, but that would be the Texans. So
I was about to say the Texans have a negative 15 point differential. Thank you very much. We gave them that. You're welcome, Texans. Strength of schedule obviously plays into that, and then simple rating system. This one's a pretty complicated equation up there at the top. You have SRS is the MOV plus the SOS, which is equal to, so it's a whole equation you got to work out here that involves, the margin of victory, strength of schedule, offensive SRS. It's a whole thing that it basically just says, it's rating these teams on a scale. So the higher the number, the better, and the lower the number, the better, or the worse, right? So a negative 5.2, really not good. A 15.2, really good, right? It shows that you're playing good teams and you're winning soundly, right? You're playing good teams and you're losing, where's the Texans one?
They're minus
6.5 because of their point differential is negative, right? So it's a very complicated equation that compiles a little bit of everything. They have a similar stat on this website on Pro Football Reference for individual players called actual value and that weighs how important they are for their specific team. So like an MVP Aaron Rodgers is like a 23, right? A starting or a backup left guard is a 1. So just kind of I really like the Pro Football Reference website. I feel like they do a really good job. I prefer them over everybody, even to Pro Football Focus. I feel like they have the simplest layout, the best stats, the easiest compiling of stats, I guess is the way you want to say it. But I also would like to say I'm kind of shocked that the NFC North is the only division. Oh, no. We have the AFC West. Everybody's 500 or better. I was like, I'm kind of shocked that we're the only 500 and up division.
That's kind of what I was looking at that already before you. I was looking at that before you spoke, and I was going to say, do we think the NFC North is the toughest division right now? But y'all both have teams in there, so you're going to say yeah.
Well, I was about to ask, why does that surprise you?
Yeah, I would have expected the NFC North to be the toughest. Like top to bottom, this is the closest division in football, right? Like even before the season, the Lions and the Packers, it was going to be one of those two, but the Bears could be a wild card team. Nobody had the Vikings making the playoffs even really, except for like fans of the team. So you know, this 3-headed monster was always looked at as like, oh, well, that's going to be a close race. Now the Vikings are 4-0, so now you look at it and go, okay, well, now it's really like anybody's game.
Oh, yeah, the division is wide open right now.
I mean, what's that down here at the bottom? I can't hear you all the way down there.
Oh, fuck you.
Way down here. I mean, point differential at 2. Come on now.
You have
better than the Cowboys.
Quarterback.
I'm just
better
kidding.
Than the Cowboys point differential.
All right, no, but let's talk about expectations real quick. Let's close up the quarter season recap with some expectations. We're gonna go division by division here.
Okay.
I expect it to look very similar to this at the end of the season. I expect Buffalo, New York, New England, and Miami to be at the bottom. Like these two fighting for last place, these two fighting for first place, and it probably looks very similar to this. What do you guys think?
I think it just depends on if we can get Tua back in for Miami. If that happens, I think the Dolphins could possibly make a run for the 2 spot, but I think it's pretty much solidified that Buffalo is by far the more superior team to me.
At this point, especially.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've been saying it since the offseason. I mean, I thought the Bills were going to win the division.
I definitely still think New York wins the division. But I could see Buffalo getting the division. So that's that's me. But who knows? It could go any number of ways right now.
But Tua was not playing well.
Yeah, the Dolphins' defense is not improved like I thought it would be. I don't think the Miami Dolphins have a chance to win this division.
Yeah,
if I'm being honest.
No.
All right, the AFC North. I expect Baltimore to end up taking this division. Pittsburgh can't play perfect defense for all 17 games. They're going to give up a few. As you can see here, it's pretty even offensively and defensively, like the rating here. I don't think they can play. I don't think Justin Fields, first of all, can maintain this level of play because I think defenses will adapt, and I don't think he has the ability to adapt to that. And then you're left with playing perfect defense all the time, and that never works out well. Just ask the 2017 Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, they had an all-time great defense with Blake Bortles, and even they couldn't make it past the AFC Championship game. So, yeah, I would expect Baltimore to take this. Pittsburgh and Cincy battling out for second, and Cleveland's going to win 5 games this year.
I mean, I think the Ravens take the division, but I think Pittsburgh takes the second. I mean, I think their defense is good enough to take on any offense in their division, and I am much higher on Fields than anyone else.
Yeah. Spoon?
Yeah, at this point, the Bengals just haven't really done much to impress me. I do see the Ravens taking this division, but I definitely see the Steelers making it a pretty close race, much closer than we probably thought they would, and they're probably going to sneak in, or they're going to get into the playoffs as a wild card for sure. I think the Steelers team is 100% good enough to do that if they don't take the division.
I don't hate it. AFC South, battle it out for second, give Houston the title now, and then Jacksonville should just, I mean, they should take Travis Hunter with the first overall pick, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they're kind of at this point, right? Like you have Trevor Lawrence, who's locked in at high money. Your defense isn't good. One player's not going to. I mean, they're going to sell the number 1 overall pick at this point because you need so many things. Like they they just look terrible. I mean, you're sitting here. I mean, just negative, 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 negative. I mean, nothing here is good. You're losing by an average of 13. You're basically losing by 2 scores a game. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that can be a good thing at all ever here. So, what do you guys pretty much agree?
Oh yeah. I mean, the Colts might have something to say about the Texans walking away with the division if they can find a medium where Anthony Richardson isn't just throwing it deep or running. If they can find a balance on offense, I think they're good.
It's kind of crazy. They're a 500 team that scored the same amount of points as they've given up. So a 0-point differential and a 0 margin of victory. So, and then they're barely positive in all the other stuff. So it's very weird, very 500.
Hot and cold in the game.
Yeah. It just screams that number right there, 500.
So. Yeah, this division has just been kind of a letdown for the first 4 weeks completely. For me,
I agree.
Even the Texans haven't been playing that good, and I mean they were.
Dude, I'm telling you, when you play the buzzsaw at home at US Bank Stadium, it's tough.
But no, it's probably going to finish somewhere around this. Houston's probably going to take the division. Jacksonville just doesn't really look that good. I think Jacksonville and Tennessee are definitely going to be fighting for that last spot. I think Jacksonville might have the upper hand whenever they do play them, at least.
Yeah,
but they're going to have to sneak out a couple more wins just to pass them. Indy hasn't even looked that good to me.
Yeah, no, Indy isn't. Indy's got a good defense with a terrible offense right now.
Yep.
Excuse me. Goodness gracious. AFC West. Raiders are going to move Adams. That's going to hurt them. Denver is going to be lucky to get to 7-8 wins. The Chargers are going to be lucky to get to 7-8 wins. Kansas City's already halfway there. I think they get to 12 wins probably. Go 500 or not 500. 66% on the way out the door into the playoffs. Probably end up taking home the 1 seed. I like Kansas City. I don't really know how the bottom. I would like to see the Chargers get up into 2nd place. Raiders probably in 3rd or 4th. Broncos in 3rd or 4th. But that's a crapshoot on the bottom 3.
Justin Herbert has had a slow start.
Well, he's hurt. He's got a high ankle sprain
right now.
He's got a high ankle sprain, so I'm not blaming him too much on that. It's hard to throw the football when you can't plant your leg in the ground. So,
the Chargers. I was just saying the Chargers' defense is what's really been helping them out to get to 500 in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. Their defense is ranked at a 10.6. I mean, the only people higher are the Broncos' defense right now. That's it. There's no. I mean, their defense is playing really, really well, and that offense is at a negative 6.6. So,
if they can just get Herbert to be healthy, I definitely see them making a run, trying to get a wild card spot. But they got to get him healthy, and they got to get him healthy quick because there's no way they're going to. I don't think there's a chance that they're going to take this division from the Chiefs. It's pretty much set in stone.
As long it's the Chiefs' division to lose. Yeah. The NFC East here, maybe one of the most shocking divisions in all of football. I know Spoon said he had the Eagles winning at the beginning of the season. I had the Cowboys winning at the beginning of the season. I don't think anybody outside of Washington, D.C. had the Commanders winning at this season.
No,
I still don't have them having
Washington, D.C. had the Commanders winning.
I still don't have them winning it this season. I would lean towards Philadelphia at this point when they get A.J. Brown back healthy, Devonta Smith back healthy. That line is still decent. Jalen Hurts isn't playing well, but I think that's Nick Sirianni's fault, not his fault necessarily. I'll say this. If Washington continues to play at the offensive level they're at, or within like 20% of that, so like 80% of their potential, they'll win this division, no question about it, in my opinion, no matter how bad their defense is. They may only win it with 9 wins, but they'll win it. So that being said, you guys feel good about that?
I think Dallas comes away with it.
Nope, I still think this is the Eagles' division to lose right now. What sucks is that they do have a very tough strength of schedule compared to what the Washington Commanders have. They're going to need the Commanders to drop a few games and get them back up there. But like whenever they play each other, I see the Eagles. I would definitely put money on the Eagles whenever they play.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. NFC North. Riley, how you feel?
I mean, I think the Bears are fighting for a wild card spot at the end of the season. The offense has looked so different game to game. They're still trying to figure out who their identity is and how they want to move the ball. The
Yeah.
defense has looked great. I mean, if the offense can turn things around, the Bears can be a good team. But I think that win over the Rams will be huge at the end of the season.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree with that, especially in the wild card race. Because I think Cooper Cup comes back in a couple weeks. Puka will come back at the end of the year. They'll make a late run push, and it'll come down to this a potential tiebreaker in like opponents or in head to head or in any number of ways. If the Vikings play like this, if Kevin O'Connell keeps calling games like this, if Brian Flores' defense doesn't get figured out, I mean,
they can be the 1 seed, especially with the rest of their schedule.
The rest of their schedule is nice. Our two toughest games are Detroit and Atlanta, right? Like we play the Jets up next, but if last week's anything to base it off of, that banged up Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be playing too hot.
Yep.
You have Detroit twice, you have Chicago twice, you have Green Bay once at home. Not a huge thing. We do play Atlanta at home. It's the Kirko revenge game, but it's also our revenge game against him because he kind of walked out on us. So we offered him a contract.
You guys play the awful AFC South, and what I mean awful, like you already beat the Texans, so you got the hard one out of the way with a dub.
Yeah.
You play the rest of that garbage, and it's
easy. I agree. We have a very easy schedule the rest of the way, but we started with a gauntlet, right? Like we started with the Niners, the Texans, the Detroit Lions. We still have to play the Jets. We're not through the gauntlet yet, in my opinion. I feel like the gauntlet ends after the bye week, and we play Detroit. That's kind of the end of the gauntlet, and it frees up after that. But if we come out of the bye week and we lose to Detroit at home, let's say we lose to Detroit at home, and we drop the next two games, and we're 4-2. I mean, the Lions have the first place in the division at that point, but like, goodness gracious, like you got an easy schedule at that point. I feel like we're walking into 10 wins at that point, 10, 11 wins. So we'll see. Can't win them all. You don't win them all. So I expect a loss eventually. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, we're going to lose, but like, you can't win them all. There's only been one team to ever do that, and I don't think we're going to be the second team to ever do it. Now, who knows? Could totally happen, but you don't win them all. It's great to be undefeated right now. I would love to get this win against the Jets, but it's a very losable game if we're not on our P's and Q's, right? But at the end of the day, I would expect us, Detroit, and Green Bay to be fighting it out for the division lead in Detroit, or the bottom three teams be fighting it out for wild card spots. I could definitely see a world in which the bottom three teams in this division all make the playoffs, right? As all three wild card teams. So
because that's the Bears, their next three games. They got Carolina at home.
I have no clue.
I think they're at the Jags, and then it was one other game that we should win.
Okay. All right. Well, the NFC South, boys and girls, how are we feeling about that? I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers still end up winning this division. New Orleans and Atlanta definitely are going to make a push for that, and I might feel differently on Thursday night if Atlanta goes in and beats Tampa Bay in Atlanta. That could totally swing things. Then they're both 3-2, and Atlanta's got the lead, and the Saints' hot start to the season looks like a fluke, and Atlanta's got the division lead, and the preseason favorites take off with it.
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything on the NFC South?
Man, I think Atlanta, if they can find their groove, they can take the division.
Yeah, because their offense has not played well yet.
Yes, and I think they're still trying to, kind of like the Bears, still trying to figure out what their identity is and how they are going to win games.
Well, the Bucs, Saints, and Falcons have all started the season playing. I mean, one of them's playing very well. The other two are playing decent, honestly. Like, they're not playing terrible at all. I think this division's pretty wide open still.
Yeah,
definitely definitely not going to go ahead and put my money on Tampa to take the division.
Andy Dalton is going to be the NFC South Division champion.
Hey, this is also that Carolina game. It is also an Andy Dalton revenge game. For those of you who don't remember, he was the starting quarterback when we drafted Fields. He was supposed to sit his first season, sat a whole 4 games before Andy messed up his ankle and Fields became the starter.
And I mean, I don't know how many people know this about you, Riley, but back in the Dizzy, before you were old enough to really, really have a solid fandom, Riley was a Bengals fan.
You know it. They had the coolest jerseys on Madden 10.
Yeah, dude, and he was rocking the Andy Dalton Bengals back in the Dizzy. Like he was going hard with him. So
couldn't have told you a single player on the team. But you
this is a deep cut for
I had the blanket on my bed with the big B on it.
Yeah, he did. Because his brother's name is Brenner, and he wanted to be just like me. All right, moving on to the NFC West. The Seattle Seahawks currently in the lead. I still think this is San Francisco's division to lose.
Yep.
CMC is probably not going to be back till at least December. At this point,
he has dual tendonitis,
bilateral
in both
Achilles
his ankles.
Yeah, bilateral Achilles tendonitis is the official term. That's fancy speak for he has Achilles tendonitis in both Achilles. The right one is worse than the left, but it is present in both. That is not good because it takes 4 to 6 weeks to heal each one. And usually you heal it by putting it in a boot or rehabbing it or what, and usually you could take pressure off it by relying on the other one more. He cannot do that. I've had the question posed to me a couple times already. Does he just retire? Does he just walk away? And I'm like, I don't see that as a bad outcome for him. I mean, you've been banged up your whole career. Yeah, you're one of the best when you're healthy, but you're never healthy, dude. Like the 101 strikes again, right? Like the number 1 overall fantasy consensus pick gets hurt again. And I wouldn't be pissed at him if he just walked away. This team is just as scary, or not just as, but plenty scary with Jordan Mason running the football. So,
yep.
I think as long as the Niners are good, he won't.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's to a point where he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get hurt next season, and we're not gonna win anything." Then yeah, maybe. But I think the promise of getting to a Super Bowl and winning one will be enough to keep him coming back.
So because of Seattle's soft schedule, which we mentioned earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if the NFC West is a division where all 14 makes the playoffs, right? Like if the Rams can end up making a comeback with Puka and Cooper Kupp getting healthy, the Niners win the division, the Seahawks have a soft schedule, the Cardinals can get hot at any moment in time with that offense. Wouldn't shock me. Wouldn't shock me if the playoffs are as following: Philadelphia, Minnesota, Atlanta, Detroit or Green Bay. Well, Detroit and Green Bay, and then the Seahawks. Like that would not shock me, or the Rams.
I will say the NFC as a conference is wide open.
That
was about to be my next statement. I was going to say, based off of what we've seen so far, I think the NFC wildcard race is going to be so much fun to watch.
So much fun to watch.
All the juggernauts from last year are 500. Dallas, Philly, the Niners, all the top teams from last year are off to a slow start.
And for the most part, other than the Rams and the Cardinals, even the Cardinals kind of to a certain extent, the bad teams are bad in the NFC, right? The Giants, we expect them to be bad, they're bad. The Panthers, we expect them to be bad, they're bad.
But that's really it. That's really the two.
Really, after that, any other team in the NFC I could sit here and say, yeah, I could see them being a playoff team this year.
Like we could shoot over to the AFC and we could just list like 4, 5, 6 teams where it's like, no shot.
Yeah, it's going to be the Chiefs, the Texans, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Bills, the Jets, right? Like that's probably going to be the playoffs. And who knows who gets the 7th seed? Probably there's a
Bengals
potential.
Is a good shot.
The Titans, the Bengals. Who knows? Maybe one of the AFC West teams make a push. Who knows on the 7th seed? But the top 6 seeds are pretty much dialed in over there. As where over here, I don't say the Bears can make a playoff push because the top end teams like the Bucks, the Niners, the Vikings, the Lions. Those are not bad teams. Those are teams that you could see winning the NFC as a whole. And then you could be like, yeah, but the Bears could also make the playoffs. And not because these are bad teams, but because the Bears are a decent team. So I feel like the talent in the NFC is so high right now. And then the talent in the AFC is just as high, just not as deep. So
Yep.
it's certainly going to be a fun race to finish out the season. And we're in week 4. By the end of week 7, we could be like, well, the Bears season sunk. The Ravens season sunk. They just lost 4 straight. So they're not even going to be a chance to be in it. So,
but no, like if somebody came to me right now and said, hey, did you know the Cardinals are going to make it this year as the 7th seed in the playoffs? I'd be like, you know what? That could absolutely happen.
I can see that.
I could see it. I could see the Rams doing it too as soon as they get healthy.
Yeah, I could also, like, if somebody came up to me and said, dude, can you believe the Falcons got the 2 seed in the NFC? I'd be like, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
I can see that. Can you believe the Cowboys won the NFC? They start playing better. I can see that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, like, it's so crazy how deep the NFC is. And at the top of the best conference, we have the best team.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on.
Anybody got anything else they want to say about expectations for the season or anything they want to add before we wrap up the show here?
Nope.
No, I don't think
good.
so.
All right.
I'm solid.
Well, thank you all for hanging out with us for our quarter season recap for the 2024 NFL season. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Really helps us out, and we want to help you out. Make sure to check out our fantasy episodes. Make sure to check out our actual podcast. It drops every Wednesday. Fantasy drops every Tuesday night, so we can get you your waiver wire pickups. And then we sometimes drop a 3rd, maybe a 4th video every once in a while just to keep things fresh. So like, subscribe, and we'll see y'all next time.
See ya.
Peace.